Om Adnyanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So we have till now completed 9 chapters. So half of the Bhagavad Gita and even half of the section for Bhakti Yoga is also now completed. So we are entering into the 10th chapter today, which is entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. And in Sanskrit, this chapter is called as Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti means the opulences of the Supreme Lord, and yoga means to connect. So this chapter is going to connect us to the Supreme Lord by telling us various opulences of the Supreme Lord. So what is the connection between the chapter 9 and chapter 10 here? So in chapter 9, towards the end of the chapter 9, this verse was mentioned about Manmana Bhava Madbhakto. So finally, Krishna is saying that become my devotee. So that is the supreme instruction, the most confidential instruction given by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, and which is to become his devotee. So finally, he is saying that we have to love the Supreme Lord. So how do we love Krishna? So for loving some person, we need to know about that person properly. And this is what uh, is going to be explained in this chapter 10. That we need to actually know more and more about the Supreme Lord. So just like when uh, someone likes a particular sports star or a movie star, actor or actresses, then more they hear about that person, then more their connection or more their love for that actor, actress, or the sports star increases. So this is how that they go into that cycle. So the same logic is applied here as well. That we want to actually become a devotee of Krishna. So we want to know more about Krishna. And the same Arjuna wants to know. So he is going to ask little later in the chapter that please explain me all your opulences. So of course, Krishna says that all my opulences are impossible to know. So I will just explain to you some prominent ones. So this is how then Krishna gives various different vibhutis, various different opulences that he has. So what is the connection between this knowing these opulences and then loving Krishna? So suppose you have a friend and suddenly you come to know that this friend, he's very humble and he is very friendly with you, but you come to know that he is such a very big businessman, maybe richest person in the world. And he is like a very famous person, very rich person. And with like just a snap of the finger, there are people line up, they are eager to serve him. But when he is with you, he is very, very friendly with you. So when you understand the opulence of the person, and then you look at the friendliness of that person, then our appreciation in that relationship increases further. And we feel fortunate that, oh, I'm very fortunate that I have such and such a great person as my friend. So similarly, when the devotees understand the opulence of Krishna, then they also start appreciating more and more this connection and the relationship with Krishna. And the reciprocity of Krishna, then they are able to see and they will feel even much connection with the Supreme Lord. So this is how this opulence of the Absolute is so important for us to connect to the Supreme Lord. That is why this is Vibhuti Yoga. Okay, so let us start with verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatte ham priyamanaya Vakshami hitakamyaya. Yes, Kalakali Madali. Please go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty Arjuna. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So, it is mentioned by the Lord that listen again. So I have already told you about some of my opulences before. So if you remember in the 7th chapter and the 9th chapter, various different energies of the Supreme Lord were mentioned. So that is why Krishna is saying that listen again. I'm going to tell you again. But all those vibhutis that I had mentioned before, I'm going to give you something better than that. So I'm going to actually uh, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. So this knowledge of opulences in chapter 10 is better than the knowledge of opulences which were given in 7th and 9th chapter. So it is more detailed. And what are the benefits of hearing? So it is mentioned that in the purport that if you actually hear, then we become fixed in devotional service and it enhances our devotional service. The more we hear about Krishna, the more deeply we will feel connected to Krishna. So this is why it is now important to hear about Krishna. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada actually starts the definition of Bhagwan. And the verse that he's referring to is Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashasriha Jnana Vairagyaschaiva Shannam Bhaga Iti Gana. So there are 6 opulences are there. So Bhagavan, Bhaga means opulences and Bhagavana means the possessor of those 6 opulences. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the word Bhagwan is explained thus by Parashar Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, full fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation is Bhagwan. So Bhagavan actually has all opulences in full and eternally they are there. We may have some opulences partially and for some time. But Krishna has all opulences, not some opulences, all opulences in full, not little bit, not more, little or more, but he has full opulences and not for some time, he has it for eternally. So it doesn't deteriorate, it doesn't reduce. So that is the difference between the opulences that we have and the opulences that the Supreme Lord has. Okay, so let us go to second verse. न मे विदुः सुरगणा प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहम् आदिर्हि देवानां महर्षिणां च सर्वशः. Yes, Vidushi Mataji.
Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages.
Okay, thank you. So Krishna is saying that I am the source of all of these people. Who are the people that he's mentioning? The demigods and sages, the scholars, and using their scholarship and mental speculation, they cannot understand Krishna. Now it is quite interesting that the devatas, they have quite a lot of powers. But Krishna is saying that they cannot understand me. And someone may say that, okay, maybe they have these material desires and that is why they have become devatas. But Krishna is saying that even sages who do not have material desires and they are quite detached, they can also not understand me. So no one. So demigods also cannot understand me. Sages also cannot understand me. So what to speak of the scholars who has some knowledge of the Vedas, they cannot also understand Krishna. And what is the reason why Krishna has given that why they cannot understand? Because Krishna is the source of them. So it is impossible for anyone to fully understand their own source. If from the parents children are coming, so everything that happens with children, the parents will be knowing. But the children will not know their parents fully, because there has been life of parents before even children were born. So similarly, the demigods, sages, and everyone is coming from Krishna. So it is said, neither of them know me because I am the source of them. I am the source of demigods and sages. So they are his creations. So the creations cannot understand the creator fully. The creator will know the creations, but the creations will not understand the creator fully. So who can then understand God? Who can understand Krishna? So in purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, and Krishna mentions little later in the chapter. So who can understand? Only the devotees who surrender to him with faith and devotion, they can understand him. And how they can understand? By studying his words. And by his grace, he descends to show himself. So even the devotees, they cannot understand Krishna by their own power, by their own endeavor. They can only do the endeavor to surrender to Krishna, and then Krishna has to reciprocate. We will see in the Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita, hopefully today, where Krishna says that I will reciprocate with you. I will show you special mercy by which you can then understand me. So we have to do our endeavor to surrender to Krishna and to try to serve him somehow or the other by using our mind, words, and body. We try to serve him, and then by Krishna's grace, we can then know him. So this is the only way that we can know the Supreme Lord. If we think that by our own endeavor we can know him, that's not going to happen. So it is impossible to know anyone, to fully understand Krishna by our own endeavors. Krishna has to actually show his special mercy, only then we can know him. So that is the way. So what the lesson can we take from this two verses that we have read? So only a devotee can understand Krishna. And how? By studying his words and by his grace. That is the only way. No one can actually say that I have understood Krishna, I know Krishna fully by my own endeavor. So no one can know, only the devotees can know. And that also by studying the words of Krishna, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, like these scriptures that we can learn by studying these scriptures, and then by his grace, by his mercy, only then we can know. And just recently in the last week program that I was mentioning, that how Srila Prabhupada is having this unique vision, and his mercy is also so unbound, like it is unbounded, like it is unlimited, that not only he wrote his books, he also gave us a way to study those books. It was his vision by which he said that the devotees in ISKCON should do Bhakti Shastri degree. We should do Bhakti Vaibhav degree. So in Bhakti Shastri, we study Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, and Ishopanishad. And then he said that, okay, after you have completed Bhakti Shastri, then you do Bhakti Vaibhav, where you start studying Srimad Bhagavatam, the first 6 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then what we should do? We should go further and we should do Bhakti Vedanta. Bhakti Vedanta is again a study of Srimad Bhagavatam from canto 7 to 12. And once you have done that, you should do Bhakti Sarvabhauma, which is the study of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And here it is mentioned, uh, devotee, only devotee can know Krishna, understand Krishna by studying his words. So Srila Prabhupada wants us to study the books, study the scriptures that he has given to us. And what is going to happen by this study? We will understand Krishna. But of course, we have to do our endeavor and we have to serve him after understanding his instructions. And then, as a reciprocation, Krishna is going to give his special mercy by which we can understand him. But you can see this vision of Srila Prabhupada, that how he has asked us to sincerely study the books. He's not asking us to read his books. Reading is okay, but he's asking us to study the books. So this is what uh, Srila Prabhupada wanted, and this is what Krishna also wants from us. So you remember in the first session of Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, we looked at the benefits of studying Bhagavad Gita. And there we saw the three benefits: the listening or reading of Bhagavad Gita, but then studying of Bhagavad Gita, and also understanding and preaching the Bhagavad Gita. So these three were having three different levels of benefits. So studying the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said that you are worshipping me with your intelligence. It is like Buddhi Yoga. So this is what Krishna has recommended, and that is what Srila Prabhupada has given. And that is why here at ISKCON Center for Culture and Education, we take so much effort and put so much emphasis on study, on systematic study of Srila Prabhupada's books. We make these various courses available. So we have made Bhakti Shastri course available. Now we are going to start Bhakti Vaibhav course here for study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how we can fulfill the vision that Srila Prabhupada has given to us. And then, who knows, we can understand Krishna. Krishna will give us darshan after we study, and he may be happy and he can mercifully give us his darshan. Okay, so what are the benefits of understanding Krishna? 10.3 gives us those benefits. Yo mam ajam anadim cha veti lokamaheshwaram asammudaha samarteshu sarvapapai pramuchyate. Who wants to read? Yes, Mahendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So his Lord is saying, he who knows me as the unborn. Unborn means who is Aja. And as the beginningless, Anadi. And as the Supreme Lord, Lok Maheshwaram. He only undiluted among men. So he is Ansammudaha, Samarteshu. And then he's freed from all sins. Sarva Papai Pramuchyate. So Krishna is explaining us that, and Krishna has actually already told us some very similar words before. Anyone remembers which verse I'm referring to? A very similar verse to this verse Krishna has mentioned before. Yes, Kalakli Mataji?
I think it's 4.9, Prabhu, and 5.29, I think, yeah.
Yes, 4.9 is the one that I was referring to, where Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deha punarjanmam naiti mameti swarjuna. So Krishna also saying a similar thing here. Those who understand my birth and activities, the transcendental nature of birth and my activities. And what is the transcendental nature of his birth? That he is unborn. That he is not taking birth, just like the human beings are taking birth. And then they take birth and then they die. But Krishna is unborn. So he is not taking birth, he is not going to die, just like ordinary human beings do. We have a body which is material, and then we are spirit soul which is spiritual. But Krishna doesn't have any material body. He's inside out, he's completely spiritual. So this is the difference between our birth and Krishna's appearance. So that is what is mentioned. And he only undiluted among men. So undiluted among men. So very few people can understand Krishna. And Krishna has mentioned that earlier in the 7th chapter. He says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. That out of thousands of people, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye, one becomes like little realized. And amongst those realized people as well, that among those siddha people as well, one may actually know me. So it is very difficult to understand Krishna. And especially by other means, it is impossible. So what it is saying is this Manushyanam Sahasreshu is saying that the devotees are so rare. So out of thousands of people and lakhs of people, maybe one person become a devotee. And such a devotee can understand Krishna by Krishna's mercy. So here Krishna is mentioned as unborn. So this unborn is different from the aja, which was mentioned for the soul, the spirit soul. Like we are also mentioned as aja. So I think in 2.20, ajo nitya shashwatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That was mentioned. So in 2.20, ajo nitya shashwatoyam purano. Ajo means it is unborn. But this aja of the spirit soul is different from the aja of the Supreme Lord. As I explained earlier, that we take this material body, even though we are aja, we still are born in this material body and then we die. So we change, we actually undergo various different changes. But Krishna doesn't undergo any changes. He's spiritual fully. So his aja and our aja is different category. But what about the unborn? Sorry, somebody may say actually Srila Prabhupada actually explains these arguments in the purport. So the point that I mentioned about the difference is also mentioned in one of the paragraphs here. In the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between the aja of the spirit soul and aja of the Supreme Lord. But then, in I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth paragraph, he gives another argument. He says that, oh, you're saying Krishna is Aja, but then he's born as son of Devaki. Then how is he unborn? And then he answers it. That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudev, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. So he was not born, he just appeared. He appeared as a Supreme Lord, gave darshan to Devaki and Vasudev, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. But then someone will say Brahma is also Aja because he's not born from like any material parents, mother and father. He was directly born from the lotus which comes from the navel of the Supreme Lord. So he's also called Aja. But even if he's Aja, he's not Anadi. Only Krishna is Anadi. Only Krishna is beginningless. Even Brahma was born there on top of that lotus. But Krishna is Anadi. He has no beginning. So in this verse, what are the benefits mentioned? By understanding Krishna. So once one understands that Krishna is unborn and beginningless, then one is freed from all sinful reaction. And understanding Krishna is very rare. And what is that understanding? That Krishna is unborn, beginningless, and supreme proprietor. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada also talks about auspicious, inauspicious, and transcendental activities. So all activities within the phenomenal world are inauspicious except those performed in obedience to direction of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Only these activities will help us to go closer to Krishna. So auspicious or inauspicious, both activities will keep us in this material world. Only the transcendental activities, akama, will actually take us back to Godhead. Okay, let's move on to verse number 4 and 5. 4 and 5 are together. Some qualities are mentioned which Krishna has created. Buddhir jnanam sammoha kshama satyam dama shamaha sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam cha bhayameva cha ahimsa samata tushtis tapodanam yasho yashah bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva pruthak vidhaha. Who wants to read? Yes, Shanti Mataji, please go ahead.
Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy, all these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So Krishna is saying that all qualities of the living entities are created by me only. And he is mentioning all these various different qualities. And if you see the purport of this verse is quite long, because Srila Prabhupada is explaining each of the quality which is mentioned here. So I highly recommend you to read this purport. And for each of the quality, Srila Prabhupada has given almost like one full paragraph explaining each of the quality. For example, the knowledge is mentioned here. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt. So knowledge, Srila Prabhupada explains that what is knowledge? It is not some material knowledge that we get. So the knowledge here that is mentioned is understanding the distinction between matter and spirit. That is knowledge. That is jnana. Then fear is mentioned here. Bhaya. Bhaya is actually coming from worrying about the future. So the human beings are always worried about the future. What will happen in future? What will happen in future? And because of that, they are fearful. But if you have faith in the Supreme Lord, then you will not feel fearful. So, if Krishna is your protector, if you understand that, he is your maintainer, he is your protector, and he looks after even the atheists. So why will he not look after a devotee? He has said already, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, and in the end, he said, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. So Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham, he has mentioned. So Krishna is going to protect us and he is going to maintain us. But still, we become fearful because we are not having faith in the Supreme Lord and we keep worrying about the future. Then austerity is mentioned. I'm just taking 2 or 3 qualities, but for each of the quality, Srila Prabhupada has given a very beautiful explanation. So please read it. So austerity, what is austerity? It is voluntarily accepting hardship or suffering for a higher purpose. So you want to actually achieve some higher goal, and for that you're voluntarily accepting some hardship or suffering. So for example, you have to wake up early and chant the holy name of the Lord. So it is voluntarily you are waking up. No one is asking you, no one is forcing you to wake up early. But rising early and chanting in the Brahma Muhurta is actually helpful for us to connect to the Supreme Lord. And that is why the devotees do this austerity of waking up early and chant the holy name. Or fasting on Ekadashi. Of course, there are some health benefits also out of Ekadashi, but it is mainly that what you are doing is you are fasting on Ekadashi so that you can actually spend more time in Krishna consciousness. You get more time and you can utilize that in chanting more rounds. You can read scriptures like that. You can do. So austerity is voluntarily accepting hardship or suffering for achieving a higher goal. So like that, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned lots of all of these qualities. So I will say that offline, if you haven't read this purport, please read it. We'll go to verse number 6. Maharshaya sapta purve chatvaro manavasthatha madbhava manasa jata yesham loka imah prajaha. Who wants to read? Someone who hasn't read yet? Okay. Surananda Prabhu can do and Vibhur Prabhu can do the next one. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other sages, and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, came from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Krishna is mentioning here, and actually in this one verse itself, he has mentioned total 25 people. 25 personalities are referred here. And Krishna is saying that they are all coming from me. So, in short, earlier, what he has said, that those who are coming from me cannot know me fully. So, all of these personalities that he is mentioning, they also do not know Krishna properly, fully. And they are the ones who are populating various planets, and everyone from this, everyone in the on this planet are coming from these personalities. So that means if they themselves cannot know, what is the question of anyone else who's coming from them to know about the Supreme Lord? That is not possible. So what are those? Who are those 25 personalities which are mentioned here? He, Krishna is Prapitamaha. Brahma is Pitamaha. He is the grandfather, and Krishna is even the father of Brahma. So he's Prapitamaha for us. And from Brahma comes the 4 Kumaras, Sanak, Sananda, and Sanatan and Sanat. So all of these 4 Kumaras are coming from Brahma. Then the 7 great rishis, Kashyapa, Atri, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, and Bharadwaj, they are coming from Krishna. So those who understand the Gotra, so there are 7 main Gotras. Gotra means when we say that, oh, my Gotra is Atri or my Gotra is Vashishta, that means our lineage is coming from Atri Rishi or Vashishta Rishi or Kashyapa Rishi, like that. And then there are further different Gotras which are mentioned based on, say, Atri's sons and whatever. So there are more Gotras. But if you actually see, there are only 7 main Gotras. And those who do not know their Gotra, or those who get initiated, then they say that their Gotra is Achyuta Gotra, which is Krishna's. So we are all connected to Krishna. So this is how the Gotras are mentioned. And sometimes even like it is mentioned that, okay, you should not marry in your own Gotra, because then you are into that same lineage. So you are actually related, closely related. So that is why it is mentioned that, okay, when marriage happens, you should actually go and marry into a different Gotra. So this is what is actually mentioned. These are the 7 great rishis from whom all the other progenitors are coming. And then there are 14 Manus, starting from Swayambhuva Manu. And then currently we are in the Vaivaswata Manu. 7th Manu is Vaivaswata Manu. And then after that will come Savarni Manu or Daksha Savarni, Brahma Savarni, Dharma Savarni. All of these Manu will come after. So there are 14 Manus like that. So, so the 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages. So 7 great sages, then the 4 other sages are 4 Kumaras. And then the Manus, which are the 14 Manus, they come from me, Krishna is saying. So total 25. 7 plus 4 plus, that is 11, plus this 14, 25. They are born from me. They come from me, born from my mind. And all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. So all the living entities are coming from them. It is like that. Of course, the 4 Kumaras remain brahmachari, but Krishna is saying that they were created, and then finally everyone else is coming from all these personalities which were created in the beginning. So let us look at the 7th verse. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tatvatah so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayah.
Um, One who is factually convinced of his opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Hare.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. So this verse is explaining that one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power, all of this opulence, that I am the creator of everyone, all of these great sages that we think that, oh, they are the origin of us, like our great grandfather, and then like that, if we trace, then we will actually trace ourselves to one of these great sages. But they are also coming from Krishna. They are coming from Brahma, and Brahma is coming from Krishna. So we see the greatness of Krishna. So one who factually is convinced of this opulence and mystic power of Krishna, then engages, automatically what happens is we engage in the devotional service of Krishna. And of this there is no doubt. So one is convinced of his opulence, one will automatically engage in unalloyed devotional service. So once we understand what is our relationship with Krishna, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the creator of everyone, and we are his servant, he is our master, then automatically we'll start serving him and we'll engage in the devotional service. So what do we learn from this? So if you want to develop love for Krishna, then we have to hear about him. So that is how this verse, seventh verse is saying. If you hear more, then hear more about the opulence of Krishna, then automatically what will happen is we'll engage in unalloyed devotional service. That means we will develop some love for Krishna. Is that clear? Any questions or comments till now? Okay. Now from here we are getting into the Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita. The 4 verses. It is called Chatur-Shloki. Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita means there are 4 verses, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Somehow my things are not operating. Give me a moment. Okay, now it is working again. So Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita. So verse number 8, 10.8, 9, 10 and 11. These 4 verses are very, very important verses. So Vyasadev, he actually wrote Vedas before, and we have actually seen in the first session of Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita that Vedas were so huge, so he then split into 4. Then even that was not enough. So out of his mercy, then he has given Puranas, 18 Puranas, to make us understand it. But that was also difficult. Then he gave summary like Upanishads, 108 small summaries which he had given. But that was also difficult. So he wrote this Mahabharata, in which he has given this Bhagavad Gita, which is only 700 verses. And these 700 verses is the essence of all the Vedic knowledge. But even 700 verses becomes difficult for people to understand. And they want even shorter summary. So these 4 verses is the summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So I highly recommend all the devotees to memorize these 4 verses, 10.8, 10.9, 10 and 11. So these 4 verses you should memorize. These are very important verses. And why they are important? Why they are called Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita? Actually, essence of all the Vedic knowledge is given in these 4 verses, first of all. And any spiritual knowledge you can actually categorize into 3 areas. And they are Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. What is Sambandha? Sambandha means relationship. Abhideya means it is the process that is given. And then prayojana means what is the goal of following that process. For example, if you take a student. So to student, he decides that I want to become an engineer or something, and then he takes admission into a particular college. So he submits an application form and whatever, and then he pays the fee, and then he gets into a college. So what he has done, he has created a sambandha. He has created a relationship with that college. What is his goal? So goal is to actually get the degree and then possibly get a job by which he can earn some money. So that is his goal. That is his prayojana. But then there is an abhideya in between. So he has established the relationship. He knows that the goal is this, but then there is a process that he has to follow for 4 years to get his engineering degree. So he has to study hard. He has to memorize various things. He has to understand things. He has to write the exams. He has to write the assignments and whatever. And after that, he can, at the end of it, if he passes all the exams, then he will get his degrees. So that is how the sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana can be understood. In case of a businessman, the two partners, they actually come together and form some contract. And that is sambandha. That is the relationship that they have created. Then what is the abhideya, or what is the process that they follow? Once they have done the contract, they actually work hard. They will put some money together. They will invest some money. They will work hard to implement the idea that they have. And like that, they will manufacture something. They will create some products or whatever, even e-products that they will create. So that is the process that they have followed. And finally, what is the prayojan that they have? Generally, they want some profit out of it, out of that business. So that is the goal that they are having. That is prayojana. So in our spiritual process as well, there is this sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. And these 4 verses explains all three: sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. Actually, generally, a whole book can be written on just understanding the sambandha, understanding, giving the process. For example, Nectar of Devotion. It is the book which is explaining the abhideya, the process of bhakti is explained. Of course, in the book, it is also, the prayojan is also given, but mainly it explains about the process, how to execute the process of bhakti. So the sambandha, the second chapter, was explaining us the sambandha that we have, that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. And the spirit soul is coming from the Supreme Lord. So this is the sambandha that it is trying to establish. So sambandha means knowledge of relationship. Abhideya means what is the practice, what is the application of the knowledge that we have received. And prayojana is what is the goal. So what is the goal of entire process that we are doing? What is the goal of bhakti process? What is
To
the
go
goal?
back home to Godhead.
Sorry?
To go back home, back to Godhead.
Yeah, to go back home, back to Godhead. Surananda Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, that one, and also like knowing our eternal position as servants of Krishna.
Okay. Pamendra Prabhuji?
Love for Krishna.
Love for Krishna. Love for Krishna is the goal of the bhakti process. So we want to develop this love for Krishna. Actually redevelop. It was already there. Somehow that it was covered. And now we love only Maya. But now we have to go from Maya and we have to start loving Krishna again. So that is our prayojan. That is our goal. And what is the sambandha that we have? We have seen Jivera Swarupa hai Krishna Nityadas. So that is our sambandha. So what is the characteristic of a jiva? That we are Krishna Nityadas. We are the servant of the Supreme Lord. That is our relationship. We are not this body, we are spirit, soul, and we are the servant of the Supreme Lord. That is our sambandha. And what is the abhideya? Abhideya is manmana bhavo mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mami vaishasi satyamte pratijane priyoseme. So these 4 things which are mentioned are basically the process of bhakti is the abhideya. So this is at high level what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. that what is our sambandha with Krishna, what is the process we have to follow, and what is the goal that we can get. So let us see how verse number 8, 9, 10, and 11 that explains all three. So basically here, the verse number 8, we will see that mainly it talks about sambandha. It also gives, it talks about abhideya and prayojana a little bit, but mainly it talks about sambandha. Verse number 9 talks about abhideya, the process, and 10 and 11 talk about mainly, predominantly, prayojana. So Chatur-Shloki Bhagavad Gita, it summarizes the entire Bhagavad Gita, and the flow is given. 10.8, Krishna actually gives sums up his opulences and explains the result of truly knowing those opulences, that one becomes a pure devotee. In the 9th verse, he describes how pure devotees worship him. So the Abhideya part. And 10 and 11, it describes how he reciprocates their loving worship. So not only the devotees are loving Krishna, but Krishna also loves such devotees and he wants to reciprocate with them. So 10 and 11 shows that reciprocation. So let us look at that now. So verse number 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Yes, Gita Jayanti Mataji.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
So what is the sambandha which is mentioned in this verse? What is mentioned here? What kind of sambandha? Yes, Vidushi Mataji.
He's the source of all spiritual and material worlds, and everything that is there, both spiritual and material, comes from him.
Correct. So he is the source of everything. And everything means everything. So he doesn't say that I'm the source of this part or that part or whatever. He says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of everything. And matta sarvam pravartate. Sarva, everything actually emanates from me. So whatever spiritual, material, whatever you see in this and do not see as well, everything comes from me. So that means what he's saying that, hey, you are also coming from me. Whoever is reading, you are also coming from me. So matta sarvam pravartate and iti matva bhajante mam. So bhajante is mentioned. That is the process. The abhideya that we were talking about is mentioned. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So they become buddha. So that is the prayojan as well. So little prayojan is mentioned as well. So I am the source of everything. Both material and spiritual worlds are created from me. And those who worship me like this, understanding this, they are intelligent people. And this is in contrast to 7th and 9th chapter where he was mentioning about other Devata worshipper. So he said that they were Alpa Medasa. So they were less intelligent. But here he is saying that they are Buddha. Buddha means they are intelligent. So those who are worshipping me and understanding properly that I am the source of everyone, then such people are considered Buddha. Whereas the other Devata worshipper, they were referred to as Alpamedasam, less intelligent. So this is how the Sambandha has been explained. That he is the creator and we are created, and he is the master, we are the servant, and then we can serve him. So let us look at how the Abhideya is mentioned now in the next verse. Machchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Yes, Maminder Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are full of devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Okay, thank you. And I saw a few other hands as well. So Shiva Prabhu, you can do the next one, and Shivani Mataji, you can do the next one after that. So 10 and 11. So 9th verse. So Krishna is saying here, Machchita madgata prana. So Very, very wonderful verse. And this verse is actually explaining the symptoms of a pure devotee. It is explaining the process, how to worship. But as an example, from the example of pure devotees, we can understand how the process of devotion has to happen. So if you see a rich person, you can just by looking at his appearance or whatever, like the way that he's showing off or whatever, you can understand he's a rich person or a poor person. Or when somebody is speaking, then we understand whether the person is intelligent or is foolish. So like that, there are some symptoms of a person by which you can understand whether he's rich, poor, intelligent, foolish, like that he's a king or he's a student or he's a uh, this or that or whatever, like that we can understand this. But what are the symptoms of a pure devotee? How can you actually understand who is a pure devotee? Or even like pure devotee is quite high, but even practicing devotees, how we can actually understand what are the symptoms of a devotee? So this verse is actually explaining the symptoms. What are the symptoms? The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. So their thoughts, like the devotees' thoughts, are always about Krishna. So they are not thinking about this or that or other things. They are always thinking about Krishna. Then what else? Their life are fully devoted to my service. So with the mind, they are always engaged in Krishna's thinking. They are thinking about Krishna. By their body, they are always devoted in serving Krishna. So their life is fully devoted to my service. And what they are doing with their words, they derive great satisfaction and bliss, always conversing about me. So this verse is actually explaining to us that a pure devotee, with their mind, with their body, and with their words, they're always trying to serve Krishna in one way or the other. Their thoughts are always in Krishna. Their life is fully devoted in Krishna's service. And they are always speaking about Krishna. They are conversing about Krishna with one another. And not only they are doing like that, they are deriving great satisfaction and bliss in these three activities which are mentioned. It is not that somebody is given service and they are thinking, "Arey, Prabhuji ne mujhe hi kyun pakad liya?" Why Prabhuji has caught me only for this doing this service? So that is not, we are not deriving great satisfaction and bliss by getting the service. And many times we are sitting in wisdom of Bhagavad Gita class, but we are thinking about something else. So our mind is somewhere else. So then our thoughts are not in Krishna. So thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. So the pure devotees are always thinking about Krishna. Their life is fully devoted to service. And they are very happy when they are given some service or they receive some service. And they are always conversing about Krishna. And they derive great satisfaction. It is not that they are thinking, Arey, I know Prahlad Narasimha story. 100 times I have heard. Every time when the Narasimha Chaturdashi comes, we hear that story. What? Every time you are telling the same story. Tell me something different now. No, these devotees actually derive great satisfaction and bliss by hearing about Krishna. This is quite interesting. So these are some of the symptoms of a pure devotee. That kaya, vacha, manasa, they are engaged in Krishna's service. And also, one other point, kathayantascha mam nityam, it is mentioned. They are constantly doing this. It is not that sometimes their thoughts are in Krishna and sometimes their thoughts are in somewhere else. So sometimes they are talking about Maya and sometimes they are talking about Krishna. No, it is said it is nityam. Constantly they are in Krishna's thinking. They are thinking about Krishna. They are serving Krishna and they are talking about Krishna. And then they are deriving great pleasure and satisfaction from it. So in short, who's a pure devotee? A person who takes pleasure in always chanting and talking about Krishna, he is a devotee. So a person who's taking pleasure in always chanting and talking about Krishna, we can understand that that person is a devotee. There's a wonderful story. There's a wonderful story of Alvars. So the great devotees. So I heard that some time ago that this Alvar, one Alvar was chanting the holy name, and suddenly it starts raining. So he looks here and there to take shelter, and he finds one small hut, and no one was there. So he actually enters the hut, and it's a very small hut, and it was only little space for him to lie down. So he said that okay, there is nothing else he can do, so he lies down there. Then after sometimes he hears the knock on the door, and he says, "Who's there?" So the person outside says that it is raining. I'm looking for shelter. So the person inside says that, oh, this is a very small hut, and there is only uh, place for one person to lie down. So the person outside says that if there is place for one person to lie down, I'm sure there is place for two people to sit. So he says, yeah, actually that makes sense. So he opens the door and he gets the a second Alvar also in. So this also is another pure devotee. So he gets in. And as it happens, when two people are there, they actually they introduce themselves and they start talking about things. But here, because they are both pure devotees of Krishna, after introduction, they understand that they are devotees of Krishna. They start talking about Krishna. Machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So they started talking about Krishna, and they are taking pleasure in it. While they are sitting there and talking, there was another knock on the door, and they think that who's there now. So when they ask that who's there, so they said that, oh, I'm just passing by, but it is raining, I'm looking for shelter. So the person in the alvars inside say that, oh, this hut is very small, there is only place for two people to sit. So the third person outside says that if there is place for two people to sit, definitely there is place for three people to stand. So I say, yeah, that makes sense. So they open the door and takes him in. Now there is a third pure devotee comes into the hut. So again introduction happens, and then they understand, oh, actually three of us are devotees of Krishna. So they start talking about Krishna, and they are wonderfully they forget everything which is happening around it. It is pitch dark inside. There is nothing that they can see, and they are just standing there and talking about Krishna. And what happens? Something interesting happens, that after sometimes they think that why there is so much tightness, that suddenly earlier we were just standing uh, nicely without any problem, and suddenly they start feeling some tightness inside that hut, as if the fourth person has come inside. And really the fourth person was Krishna who came, because he saw that the three pure devotees are talking about him. So he was quite keen to understand what these three people are talking about me. So he also came to hear. And that is how in that hut there were three devotees and Krishna tightly standing and hearing and talking about Krishna, and the fourth person is hearing. So this is how when the three devotees, the pure devotees, they are Machita, Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam. They are talking about Krishna and they are deriving bliss from it. And Krishna is also interested in such talk. So it is mentioned in the Padma Puran that Naham Tishtanti Vaikunthe Yoginam Hridayeshu va. That Krishna is saying that Naham Tishtanti Vaikunthe. I do not stay in Vaikuntha. I do not stay in yogi's heart. Tatra Tishtanti Narada Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. So where my devotees are singing my glories, that is where I am. So this is what we can see from this pastime as well. And this is natural. So suppose there are a few people who are talking and you are just passing by. And when they are talking and blah, 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 and they say, oh, Parminder, blah, 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 Parminder, blah, 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 Parminder. And Parminder Prabhuji is going from nearby and he hears, oh, Parminder, 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 what they are talking about me. So Parminder Prabhu will want to go and see, hey, what are you talking about me? Tell me. Isn't it? So that is how when Krishna is someone is glorifying Krishna, Krishna wants to know what my devotees are talking about me. So he also comes to listen to us. And then he will give us his special mercy. So, so these are the symptoms. Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, with mind. So Kaya means body. Kaya, Vacha means our words, and Manasa means our mind. So all these three devoted in Krishna's service or engaged in Krishna's service, such a person, and he is deriving great satisfaction and bliss from that activity, is a pure devotee. So this is how we can understand a pure devotee. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada actually refers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in the Madhya Leela, he actually gives this analogy of seed. Bhakti is as a seed. So let us look at that analogy quickly, and then we'll move on. So it is mentioned that Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. So Bhakti Lata Beach, like Bhakti that we receive from Guru and Krishna, is compared to a seed. It is not that at the initiation time, Guru actually removes one small seed and gives to the devotee and says that now, here is the seed for your bhakti, and now you are initiated. No, this seed is like a metaphor, is mentioned, that by actually worshipping Krishna properly, so first of all, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev. So we are Bhagyavana because we have got the human birth, we have got somehow or the other come in contact with the devotees and Krishna, and that is why we are getting the Bhakti Lata Beach. It is very, very rare. So that is why it is mentioned it is Bhagyavana Jeev. So you worship Krishna, and then by Krishna's mercy, we get the spiritual master. And then the spiritual master will give initiation, and by following his instruction, then we will get Krishna. So by Krishna's mercy, we get Guru, and by Guru's mercy, then we get Krishna. So this is how it happens. So what kind of, so if he's not giving the actual seed, then what kind of seed that he gives at the time of initiation or in general? So the seed that is mentioned here, Bhakti Lata Beach, is the methods and the rules and regulations by which one is perfectly trained in devotional service. That is the seed that the Guru gives to us. But that is not all. Like once the seed is given, the things are not finished. The seed needs to be planted. So all these methods, rules, and regulations which are given by the Guru as instructions, we need to follow those instructions. And then we have to keep watering that seed. Then it will sprout, and then slowly it will become bigger. So how do we keep watering it regularly? By regularly Shravana and Kirtana. So Srila Prabhupada mentions clearly, by hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that seed will then fructify slowly as it will start sprouting if we do regular hear and chanting. And then if you keep watering that every day, then slowly the plant will grow. This Bhakti Lata the creeper will grow. And this creeper will keep growing. Finally, it will pierce the material universe and go to the spiritual world, and it will take shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And then what will happen is, after that, we will get the fruits. The fruits for this Bhakti Lata are fruit of love of Godhead. But even after the fruit we receive, it is not that now we have got the fruit, now our job is done. No, the watering has to continue. Even the most advanced devotee, if they stop watering, they stop the Shravana and Kirtana, then what will happen is their Bhakti Lata will just die. So we don't want that to happen. So we have to continue doing the watering. So what do we learn from this verse? A devotee is always engaged in service of Krishna using mind, body, and words. And in fact, these are the symptoms by which we can understand who is a devotee. So this is what we should understand and continuously engage ourselves in Krishna's service in whatever way we can. Okay, it is already 8:35. So it looks like that we are not going to finish Chatur-Shloki. Okay, let us continue from the 10th verse, like we have completed 9. So we'll continue from the 10th verse in the next session. Maybe we can stop here and we'll see if there are any reflections, questions or comments or summary points. Yes, Aparna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, amazing session, amazing lecture. I think you got a siddhi of simplifying verses like this, and it just struck, mind. Thank you so much. I got two questions, Prabhuji. What was the first question? First question. Yeah. So, Prabhuji, first question was you were mentioning in one of the verses, understanding Krishna, right? So, understanding Krishna, what does it entail? Like, who can say that a person understands Krishna as in his pastimes, or why did he's a Janma, he is obviously unborn, and he is, like he's here forever. But understanding Krishna would entail everything, Prabhuji, or just few aspects of Krishna?
Yeah, good question, Mataji. So
Thank you.
understanding Krishna is at a different levels.
Right.
So first of all, even those who are onto the spiritual path, they do not understand absolute truth properly. Some people just, or most of them, they think that Krishna or the absolute truth is impersonal, and they only talk about this light or Brahma Jyoti, and they just focus on that Brahma Jyoti part. They don't go beyond that. And some who go beyond that, they also only think about Krishna as Paramatma sitting in everyone's heart. And only few go beyond even that and understand that, oh, Krishna is Brahma Jyoti, he is Paramatma, but he is mainly Bhagavan, he is person. And the Brahma Jyoti is just coming from his body, from his spiritual body, the effulgence that is coming out, that light is Brahma Jyoti. And he, out of his mercy, he's expanding and sitting in everyone's heart. And by that, everyone is able to function properly. So that is the Paramatma feature. So this is the first level of understanding. That itself is very hard for people to understand. Even those who try to understand Krishna as Bhagwan, they also get confused a lot of times. And sometimes they think that, oh, Krishna is a person, but he's just a like a super powerful person. Or they go beyond and they think that, oh, he's like a superhuman. He's probably beyond the human nature, but it is like a powerful person. They don't even still understand that he is a supreme personality of Godhead. And then, even if they cross this hurdle, still there are lots of hurdles. That sometimes his pastimes are so confusing that even Krishna's pastime, that they are so confusing that he's stealing the butter, that he's a thief. How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead be a thief? Then he's fearful of his mother. How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who everyone should be fearful of, is fearful of like a ordinary gopi inside in Vrindavan? Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his one of the name is Ranchod Rai. He ran away from the war, like the battlefield, and he just ran away from it. If he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why is he afraid? People will say that he was afraid and that is why he ran away. Of course, there are different reasons for it. He went to meet Rukmini. That was most urgent. So he said, okay, forget about this. This pastime is not interesting. This other interesting pastime is happening there. I am required there, so I have to go there. Anyway, so all of these confusing pastimes happen. Even the pastime of Damodar, which is now coming up, not far away. So in that pastime as well, Mother Yashoda is not able to tie this rope around his waist. And if you see the picture, you can see that while she's trying to tie, and no matter what long rope she is taking, it is still not able to, she is not able to tie. But still, before that, she has already tied one thread around his waist. That black thread she has already put. So it is quite confusing. First, initially, I have actually already tied this black thread around Krishna's waist. So Krishna is unlimited, but I was able to actually put the thread, black thread. But now this long rope as well, I'm taking and I'm not able to tie. What is this logic? So there are so many confusing things that happen. And even the most faith-breaking pastime for many people is Krishna's disappearance from this world. And people think that, oh, he died and his body is kept somewhere and all of that. So that means he was an ordinary person. So Krishna's uh, understanding Krishna can be actually at multiple levels. And it all depends on how much faith we have built in Krishna. And that is why it is mentioned that how we can actually build faith in Krishna is constantly hearing from the bona fide sources. And when we actually hear from bona fide sources and their explanation of these pastimes, we understand why this is happening, and we can understand Krishna, his appearance, and his pastimes properly in the proper context. And that way, our faith will go from Shraddha to Nishtha. So Shraddha is like the shaking faith, like the initial faith. But over a period of time, by constantly hearing, by constantly purifying ourselves by chanting and hearing, that is how then we can go to Nishtha stage, which is the firm faith in Krishna, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is my protector, he is my maintainer, and I am his servant. So there can be like multiple levels, and we can go further than that as well afterwards when we actually develop love for Krishna, some ruchi, asakti, some attraction, some taste, and then bhava and prema, then our faith will go even further. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Can I ask you one more question? I promise I won't ask third question.
Okay. Let us do the second question as well. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like we know that our constitution position is that we are servant of Krishna. Krishna is our eternal master. But then, Prabhuji, in general, in materialistic sense, a servant and a master, the relationship is great. But there's not an element of love. Like a servant cannot love. He can care for his master. He can sacrifice his life for his master. He can do everything for his master, but he can't love. So how come that love comes into picture if we take Krishna as our master and be a servant 100%? But then love element, how do we generate or rekindle that love feeling being a servant of Krishna, Prabhuji?
Yeah, good question. So the love for Krishna can happen in multiple different relationships, and servitudeship is the basis of all those relationships. So you can actually serve
Yeah.
Krishna in Shanta Rasa, then you can serve Krishna in Dasya Rasa, or you can serve Krishna in friendship Rasa Sakhya or Vatsalya, or then in the Madhurya Rasa. But if you see in all of these rasa, one thing that is common is that everyone is serving Krishna somehow or the other. Even in Madhurya Rasa, where the gopis and Srimati Radharani, they are trying to serve Krishna. In Vatsalya Rasa, you see that Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, or Mother Devaki, and Vasudev, they are all trying to serve Krishna somehow or the other. And then in Sakyaras, all the Gopas are also trying to serve Krishna somehow or the other in the friendship rasa. And Hanuman is trying to serve Lord Ram in Dasya rasa. And there are other Gopas, Gopa friends who are in Dasya rasa who are trying to serve Krishna. And then there are some who are trying to serve Krishna in the Shanta rasa. So, for example, all the paraphernalia that he's using, his flute, his garments, his peacock feather, all of that is trying to serve Krishna in the Shantarasa that he is having. So everyone is trying to serve Krishna. And yes, what you're saying, in the material world, the servant and master relationship is different. There is no love in that. And because it is the material world. Everything here is relative. And that is why there is no love in that relationship. But whereas in the spiritual terms, if you see, the spiritual world is absolute. So in absolute, there is no duality. So when we are saying master and servant, their thinking is same. In the material world, the master and servants are different. Their master is thinking that how can I extract more and more out of my servant? And the servant is thinking that master is exploiting me. How can I provide him as little as possible? And in that as little as possible, how can I get my salary? So there is duality there. So their thinking is not aligned. but in the spiritual world, their thinking is aligned. It is interesting that we talk about, because the process is that we are trying to serve Krishna. That is why we mainly talk about that. But if you see, it is a reciprocal relationship. Why we say in the spiritual world it is absolute is because the devotee is trying to serve Krishna and Krishna is trying to serve the devotee. So that is why the thinking is same. And that is why there is this reciprocation that is there, and then there is love. You can see that from the mother and child relationship, where the love is there from serving. So similarly, in the pure master and servant relationship in the spiritual world, which is absolute, there is love between master and servant as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Gita Jayanti Mataji, you had your hand up. Was that for some reflection, some question
Yes,
or comment?
Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Thank you for explaining to us the connection between Sambandh, Abhidaya, and Prayojan. That was very nice, Prabhuji. Which were the verses in the Bhagavad Gita that you quoted for each of these? And the second thing I wanted to say that I really like that story of two people sitting together and then three, and then Krishna coming and listening to them. That is very nice. Alvars.
Okay, thank you. So there are various verses that we were talking about. Sambandha was in the second chapter, which was mentioned from 2.11 to 2.30, where mainly it is talking about we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So it is the starting of establishing of the Sambandha to explain to us who am I? Because without explaining who are you, there is no point in explaining who is Krishna. So the verses wherever Krishna is talking about you are not this body, you are spirit soul, and wherever he's talking about himself, like in the fourth chapter, knowledge of absolute knowledge of transcendental knowledge, which was mentioned about Krishna, those are establishing the sambandha for us. And wherever Krishna is talking about the process of bhakti, for example, starting from chapter 7 to chapter 12, so in this section, as well as earlier as well and later on as well, wherever he talks about the process of bhakti, like we saw Ananyas Chintayanto Mam verse, or that Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, then Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. So all of those verses, as well as this Machita Madgata Prana verse, then Manmana Bhav Mad Bhakto verse, all of these verses are explaining us the process of abhideya, which is talking about the process of bhakti. And the prayojana is also wherever he is actually talking about the goal. For example, antakale chamameva smarana muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshaya. That at the time of death, if you actually remember me, that's part of the remembrance, which is the process of like abhideya. But what will happen after that? You will come to me. Then sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. So mokshayishyami ma shucha, do not fear, you will get liberated and you will come to me. Or yogakshemam vahamyaham, he said that I will carry what you lack. So that is the reciprocation that he is mentioned, that I will do this for you. That is the goal. So that is the prayojan. So many of these verses are talking about the goal of the process.
Thank you,
Is that
Prabhu.
okay? Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Hare Krishna.
Any reflections or any summary points from today's session? Yes, Surananda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'll just tell about the important point. Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Only a devotee can understand Krishna by studying his words and by his grace.
Very good.
Yeah, if you want to develop love for Krishna, then hear about him. A devotee is always engaged in service of Krishna using his mind, body, and words.
Okay, good. Thank you, Prabhuji. Mahendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, good to know these two particular things for me. I wasn't aware of this. One is this Gutra. Like I was always confused. What does Gutra mean? So it's good to know that it's coming from 7 great sages. So that's really good. And the second thing is definition of Bhagwan. So that's really good to know. Like we talked about Atma, Paramatma, Super Soul, but it's good to know about Bhagwan as well.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Nice, good. Any other final comments from anyone? Okay, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.
Jai.
Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.